Time we would stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The introduction, members, let the record reflect that all members are present. Larkin Rippeth, Angie Robinette, Margaret Beavers, and Ed Evans, and I'm Georgia West, and then this is Dr. Barker, our Superintendent and Secretary. At this time, the approval of the minutes of April 15, 2025, regular session. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Do you have any questions on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. We have no delegation of speakers. The next item is the discussion items, board member reports and presentation. The first is the fiscal year 24 audit overview by Jana Khan, our treasurer, and also she will do the fiscal year 26 proposed budget overview as well.
Good evening. As you all know, we had our FY24 audit done back in March, and I'm still waiting on your official copies from the auditor, but for now I just printed you off what he sent me electronically, but as soon as I have your bonded one, I will give that to you. Let's see, I have tabbed several sections here. This is a lot of paper, a lot of numbers. So I put tabs on what I feel like you would need to see tonight and for easy finding later on. In September, I presented the FY24 financial statements to you, and at that time they were unaudited. What you have here tonight is the same set of financials, and numerically nothing on those have changed. As you all know, we did receive a clean audit. There were no findings, which was wonderful news. We were very happy about that. First of all, go to page 4, which I have tabbed there for you. And I'm just going to do a quick overview of the financial highlights from the auditor. The board's assets, are we good? Okay. The board's assets plus deferred outflows of resources exceeded liabilities plus deferred inflows of resources by $131.4 million at the close of FY24. Of this amount, approximately $31.4 million can be used at the board's discretion. That was our unrestricted balance. The board's total net position increased in FY24 by approximately $13.5 million. And then at the close of 24, the board's governmental funds reported combined ending fund balances of $24.9 million, an increase of $5.3 million in comparison with the prior year. Approximately $11.3 million of this total was also available for spending at the board's discretion. At the end of FY24, the unassigned fund balance for the general fund was $10.9 million, which was also equivalent to 34% of the total general fund expenditures. Now on page 17, which I also have tabbed, that's where you can find a lot of these numbers that I just threw out, because I know that's a lot. I'm going to skip ahead to go over the summary of the auditor's results, and that's on the last page, which is page 73. So this is the official auditor's report. There at the top, you'll see the type of auditor's report issued, and that is unmodified. An unmodified audit opinion is always what you want to see in an audit. That signifies that the auditor found the financial statements to be true and fair, a good view of the board's financial status, and the finances are in accordance with the generally accepted accounting principles. So based on this audit report, the board's financial health is very good. The absence of any findings indicates a strong internal control environment and effective compliance, which we do intend to maintain. So that's pretty much it, unless you all have any questions.
I just also wanted to make a note, because when you're looking at the unrestricted fund balance and you see millions of dollars that we have in that balance, and I wanted to remind you, because Ms. West and I went to the School Board Association meeting the other day, and you see from the legislative season, legislature, erroneously thinks that boards of education have the tons of money in their unrestricted balances, and therefore that resulted in some bills lacking a fiscal note or having just a smaller fiscal note, just because there is this assumption that boards of education have the money. But as Ms. Khan can also tell you, the expectation from the State Department is that we at least have 3 to 4 to 5% of our total operating budget, which, as you see, is a lot, to be in reserve, so that we can actually be in sound fiscal position should something happen. And I also want to remind you that we are finishing up the school, so now, we have been going through just reimbursement from the SBA, but there are a lot of, costs that we are incurring as a district, because remember, we have our share that we have to pay for the school, and we are also supporting the building of the full-size gym, because it's a want to, not a need to, based on the policy. So this is millions of dollars that we are, putting into the new school. And we have several big projects that we have coming up, that we want to move CTC into Fall River at some point. And even though we'll be going to ask SBA for funding, they will be expecting us to have the county share. So we have several capital projects coming up. And as you will see later on with the fields, yes, it was an unexpected expense, but we still have to make sure our students have the fields to play on when the season starts. And it's going to be, like I told you in the email, around $1 million expenditure. Hopefully that will get reimbursed by FEMA at some point, but we have to operate now and make those decisions now. So that's why we are trying to keep that healthy fund balance. And it's not that we are rich and we're just sitting on the money. We are spending that money, but we also want to make sure we have that cushion just in case things happen. And as you know, things happen, and we have to be prepared for the unexpected.
Madam Superintendent and Mr. Treasurer, you remember last week or last month I asked about the states, how they do the taxes now. We get so much back, or you get it all back if you pay your car insurance or car taxes in time. And I asked if that would affect our budget income in any way. Have you had a chance to look at that?
Right, so no, that will not affect our budget income, because you are getting a tax credit for paying your taxes on time. So basically that's just decreasing your taxable amount that's due. So you're not actually getting money from the county of McDowell, but you're just taking a tax credit from the state tax department.
Okay, so I know I've already gotten mine back, every penny that I paid, so it has to come out of somebody's.
Right, and basically, like I said, it's decreasing your taxable income of, like when you file your taxes, it's just decreasing like your total taxable income. So technically, you're not getting money back. I mean, it's reducing what you owe, if you owe anything, but, it doesn't come out of the county's budget anywhere.
So taxes paid by me, by you, by whoever, does go into the county's coffers, and we receive our percentage. And that the state makes up, come tax time, what I got back.
Right.
Which was every nickel.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Were there any other questions regarding the audit? Again, I know that's a whole lot there. If you have questions at any time, please reach out to me and we can go over anything you have questions on. Okay, I'm going to move on to the FY26 proposed budget. I've given you a budget packet which has a copy of the PowerPoint that I have up here. And then I have the proposed budget expenditures and the proposed budget revenues. Those are two separate documents. So I have all of that for you there. Definitely not going to go over every single line item here because we'll be here for a long while. I mainly wanted to give you an overview of the budget, the requirements that we have to do, the process to get these numbers, and also mention the items that impact our budget. And then, of course, I'll give you the bottom line of what's been budgeted for each fund. A budget is basically an estimate of all incoming revenues and expenditures for a set period of time. So just keep in mind that all the numbers here are estimated. We do get our state allocations for revenues, and those are pretty solid. But the expenditures themselves, we estimate, and I'll go over that a little bit here in a minute. A budget is a good tool that we use. Going through the year, it allows us to track where we are with revenues and expenditures at any point in time, and that helps us make the best financial decisions that we can during the fiscal year. Okay, so first I'm going to go over the budget requirements, and this is required by the state of every county board. So of course, number one, each county board is required to prepare a proposed budget for the succeeding fiscal year for each of the funds that it maintains. So of course for us, that would be Fund 11, Fund 51, and Fund 61. So we have to budget each one of those because those are the three active funds that we have right now. The proposed budget must be made available for public inspection at least 10 days prior to the public budget hearing. And actually today is our first day of public inspection. We put the budget out this morning out front. We also published a legal notice which announces the public inspection period and hearing date. So in the Bluefield Telegraph, we do a legal notice, and it tells the public the dates of when it will be on public inspection and also the date of when the actual budget hearing will be. And that is ran 2 times. It ran on April 24th and May 1st. Number 3, the budget itself must also be published in the newspaper as a Class 2O legal advertisement. I do have that ready to send, and it will be published within the next week or so. And it is okay to publish the proposed budget itself and not the actual adopted budget. So I'll be sending the proposed budget for them to publish. Once the public hearing takes place and the budget is adopted, then it must be submitted to the state board for approval by May 30th. So our public hearing will be May 19th. So on the following day, May 20th, is when I'll make my submission to the state. So those are the requirements that we have to follow. Next, we have the budgeting process. Step 1 of the budget is determining your full-time equivalency personnel. And as you all know, the personnel is the largest piece of the budget. Salaries and fringe benefits account for approximately 80% of the general budget. And this is pretty standard in every county. Pretty much every county, it's right at the 80% mark of how much of their budget comes from the general fund. The way we do this, finance and personnel have to work hand in hand during budget season because we have to account for all full-time personnel that is currently employed, and then we have to adjust for changes during RIF and transfer season, and then we add in any newly anticipated positions. And so by doing that, it allows us to key in on a very solid personnel number to budget by. And then, of course, we don't just budget for salaries, but we have the fringe as well, so we have to update any payroll data to reflect any changes, especially like PEIA or any other salary changes. Once we solidify the personnel piece, then we do step 2, which is all the other general fund expenditures. And so this is everything other than personnel, such as supplies, maintenance and transportation, travel, utilities, etc. Just everything that's not personnel we budget for once we have that personnel number. The way we do this is we review and use prior year expenditures to estimate the upcoming expenditures. So basically we'll make calculations and adjust for changes that will impact the upcoming year. So if more was spent in one area than what we had budgeted previously, then we know in the upcoming year we need to budget more for that line item. And vice versa, if we budgeted for something in the previous year and then there hasn't been much come out of it, then we know we can decrease that and allocate that money somewhere else. Next, on step 3, we budget our step 7 projects, which are housed in Fund 11. And step 4, we also have to budget any transfers from Fund 11 to Fund 61. So Fund 11 is our general fund, and Fund 61 is where our grants are budgeted. And so due to the operational needs and the structure of some of our programs, it is necessary to record transfers between these two funds. When necessary, the receiving fund is required to book the transfer as revenue, while the transferring fund is required to book the transfer as an expenditure. So basically, it's just from one fund to another. You might see this especially in child nutrition, where we have our child nutrition grants in Fund 61. If we fall a little short there, then we have to have Fund 11, our operating fund, to kind of come and pick up the slack where it's short. So that's one place that we do see that sometimes. Okay, once we have all of our expenditures, and that pretty much takes care of all of those, we do the budget revenue. The beginning balance for each fund is estimated, and we make that estimation also based on the prior year. We just had our levy order, and the final levy order and rate sheet is what we use to get our regular levy revenue and our excess levy revenue. So we just plug those numbers right in because we know what they are. We use preliminary comps that are provided by the State Department to budget for state aid, retirement, PEIA, and Step 7 allocations. As you all know, state aid is based on student enrollment and employment data that is based upon the second month of the school year as it's reported by the county. And it's also important to note that full-time equivalency employees are funded at the calculated level required, not the number of personnel that we actually employ. And this is where we have to be extremely mindful of how many FTE that we can fiscally carry over the state aid allowance, because then we're digging into our reserve to cover any of those that aren't covered by state aid, so we have to be careful of that. Once we have our expenditures and our revenue, we do our budget reconciliation, and all this is we make sure that each fund that we budgeted for, that the expenditures and the revenues balance. They have to be equal. just because you don't want to have more expenditures budgeted than you have revenue coming in, because that would be a problem. So every fund should balance with expenditure and revenue. And then the State Department, they also inspect each county budget, and we have certain checkpoints to go by for those, and they do that to ensure that we have adequate funding in 4 areas. And these include salaries for professional and service, utility cost, transportation cost, and fringe benefits. So we have to make sure that when we budget these 4 things, that we are in alignment with what the State Department expects. And they base their expectations on our previous year's budgeted. If there's a huge variance there, they'll reach out and ask, why did this go down so much, or why did this go up so much? So we kind of have to keep those in line so we know we're on the right track. Now I'm going to go over each of the funds that we have budgeted. I'll give a brief overview just as a reminder of what each fund is, and then the total operating budget for these funds. First, we have Fund 11, which is our general expense fund, and this is the general operating fund of the board. All revenues and expenditures, except those that are required to be accounted for in another fund, which that would be our grants, everything is accounted for in Fund 11. The total operating budget for FY26 is $51.2 million. These items on the next page are things that impacted our budget, things we had to account for, make sure we have them in there, and they did cause a slight increase in our budget. Of course, the first one, PEIA increase of 14%, and that 14% is the employer's cost that we have to cover. Next, we have the replacement of Riverview High School football field due to the flood damage, and the quote on that was $490,000. Prior to doing the budget, we met with our maintenance, transportation, and technology and food service departments to kind of see what their needs were. We also wanted to get a preventative maintenance plan in place for these departments so that we can kind of take care of what we have now and not have everything breaking down at once, in the near future. So this next item on here is one that we are doing for preventative maintenance. It's our HVAC, and this is going to be contracts for mechanical equipment, controls, and troubleshooting, and it's approximately $190,000. And again, we're hoping by spending this now that it will help prevent huge costs all at once at a later date. We also need an upgrade of our camera systems in our older schools. This came in at $200,000. An upgrade of door access controls in our older schools is $154,000. The replacement of kitchen equipment at Riverview High School and Bradshaw Elementary School, there were several items needed there in the kitchens. Those are around $75,000. Then, of course, every year we have an increase in our BRIM insurance, and this year the rate for BRIM is $565,000. So we had to take into account all of these large item numbers and make sure we had room to put all of these in our budget this year.
And I just wanted to add, as you know, with like HVAC preventative maintenance, we only have one HVAC technician who is also our foreman, and it's, especially when the weather changes, it becomes a nightmare to try and make sure we calibrate the systems, and those are big, very complex systems. So we asked Mr. Chapman to look into the preventative maintenance contracts, because this is going to be something that will help our systems run more smoothly and make sure if we do have the problems, they get prevented before they actually become, more of a hassle. And I'm sure you get called when classrooms are too hot or classrooms are freezing. And it just takes a while for us to get everything addressed because we have one guy. So we wanted to put money up front on this so that we would try and eliminate these issues as much as we can. Camera systems, as you know, our systems are around 20 years old, and there are several blind spots, especially in high schools, that we really need to eliminate because, especially now in spring, it becomes really, really hectic, so we need to make sure our principals have enough to see what's going on. And the door access controls, those are very important to make sure that we upgrade those and we keep our buildings as safe as possible. And I would like to really push these amounts out because we spend a lot of money on safety and security, and as you can see, these are hefty, hefty numbers. And when legislature does not appropriate as much money because, I guess they just think we don't spend as much on safety. I want to keep on showing that. And this is just for our little system, school system, for 10 schools, soon to be 6. And it's just almost $500,000 just for very few items. It's not everything that we are replacing. But we kind of have to be mindful of, we are spending a lot on this stuff, and to make sure our schools are safe and our classrooms stay regulated, so to say.
She mentioned Brim here at the bottom. It says increase in insurance rate. Is that the increase or the total amount?
That's the total amount.
Okay, that's what I took from your talk there then when it said here.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's the total amount, which I can't remember the exact number from last year, but I know for sure that it was a definite increase, pretty significant. It goes up every year. But yeah, that's the total, not the increase.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Fund 51. This is our capital projects fund. This fund is used for capital improvement projects. Right now, the only capital improvement project we have is Coalfield Elementary. The revenue source for this fund is SBA funding and any transfers from Fund 11. So our total budget amount for FY26 was $2.5 million. This is an estimate based on what is left to do over there. We anticipate SBA funding to be about $2 million of this 2.5, and then our general fund would be about $500,000. And then last, we have Fund 61, our special revenue fund. This is where our state and federal grants are housed. The expenditures in this fund are legally restricted for a specific purpose. The expenditures are based upon the approved budget when the grants are awarded, and the program directors for each of these grants, they're the ones that make their own budget and have it approved. The revenue sources, of course, would be the state or federal monies, and just a reminder that the federal grants do come in as a reimbursement, so we spend the money first and then get reimbursed for it. The grants that are budgeted here were the professional and service staff development, Title I, Title II, and Title IV, IDEA and IDEA preschool, adult ed program, and food service. The total budget for the special revenue is $61.1 million. I know that's a lot of information, a lot to go through, so if you have any questions, yes.
Are we looking at just reading at the newspapers and whatnot, are we looking at a Title I decrease in the amount of funding we get this year?
They always tell us to project 10% decrease every year, no matter what happens, federal government. But we have not received our allocations yet.
So you don't know what it will be? So is that, in the 61 million you have here, is that included?
Yeah, so where we don't
Based
know,
upon last year?
yeah, where we don't know what we're getting for these grants, the best we can do is based on what we received last year. Then when we actually get the grant awards, then I'll go in and adjust to what it should be.
But we've not made a budget yet, because we're still waiting. They told us that with what's going on in Washington, it won't affect Title I.
It's not a discretionary fund, but just from losing money to charter schools and enrollment to expect a 10% decrease.
10%, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you. You did a good job. A great job, I guess. Okay, the next we have the WVU Extension SY 25 initiatives in McDowell County Schools. Kaylee Adkins. And she can introduce her partner. There are two previous students of Ed Evans, he said. And we like it when the McDowell County students come back and work.
Sorry if I am a little, my voice is a little gone. I worked at state camp this weekend, just got back yesterday, so. And it rained the entire time. Thank you. So I'm Kaylee Atkins. I am the new extension agent in training for McDowell County. This is Brianna Hawkins. She is with Wyoming and McDowell, and she does the F&P, so I brought her to kind of give that portion of the presentation, and if you guys have any questions about that, she's well more equipped to answer those questions than I am. Okay, so our program report, and we'll start with family nutrition. So
Okay, so I am funded through the USDA and federally funded my position through the Family Nutrition Program. I am funded through SNAP Ed and FNEP, which is Expanded Food Nutrition Education Program. So I do two different types of programming. Through SNAP Ed, I do public health type programming, so that might be things in the community, it might be things in the schools. I've done some public health things at some of our back to school events, like at Riverview High School, Mountain View High School. I helped at Welch Elementary and Fall River Elementary. I also do adult education classes, so some of the stuff you might see, like with the Circle of Grandparents, the Refuge and Resettle is with adults. So I'm an adult educator. I work with older youth and adults. So I don't work so much with elementary unless it's like a public health event that I'm doing. So some of the other things, I work with Dana Lester in McDowell County. If you've met her, she's a youth educator, so she works a lot more with the elementary school age kids than me. We do some Harvest of the Month programming, so you'll see Kaylee in this picture. We participated in the trunk or treat at the Board of Education in the fall. I also am planning to work with the Safe Shelter, partnering with you all. I know we did an MOU earlier in the spring, and I've had about 170 participants of all ages, mostly at school events, like back to school events and things like that. Kids Market at the store, Dana Lester leads that. We kind of collaborate on it, but it's a program where kids in the community get $20 worth of tokens to spend at the school, to spend at stores for their family. So they're getting free produce and they're learning skills like shopping, budgeting, and having choice to choose fruits and vegetables. So McDowell County, I was just hired last June, and like she said, I work Wyoming McDowell. So I haven't been in McDowell County as much as I'd like to be, and my trainings for some of the curriculums I can do in school wasn't given until February, and then you all had some flooding, and we had some grades and things like that. So I wasn't able to do as much of my curriculums in the school as I plan to next year, but some of the partners I've been able to create is you all, our day report program in McDowell County, SAFE, the Hope Coalition I do things with, the FRN, Active Southern West Virginia, I lead walking groups, I'm being trained to do like refit groups, so I do public health, like those types of activities. I also work with Mountain Heart Community Services a lot. I'm working with Unicare and Annetta Tiller, and I do a lot with reconnecting McDowell, and we're hoping to eventually get High Tunnel. That's a later date to be discussed, but we've been hoping to maybe eventually make plans for high tunnels and things, bring that back into schools. 2025 goals, again, I'd like to do more, just getting out in the community and doing things, but I'd also like to do more of my programming in the schools. So I do a program called Teen Cuisine with teenagers, where they learn food safety, cooking skills, they actually get to cook, and they learn a nutrition curriculum over 6 weeks. We're also piloting a program called Rev It Up that's similar. It's a 6-week program through Rutgers University, where, again, we teach nutrition, food safety, works really well with like health classes. So we're also eventually talking about starting pharmacy programs with Tug River Health, and just continuing some of our public health programming that we already do throughout next year. So that's all on mine. I can tell you a little bit about Dana. I won't speak too much for her, but here's a little bit about what she does too that's similar. She has been in the schools a lot. That's primarily where she does most of her things, again, because she's mostly school-aged. So she does Show Me Nutrition K through 5. She's had 16 group of students, 350 students, and 96 hours of teaching just this past year. Here's some information. So diet quality of surveys taken, about 92% said that improved for grades 3 to 5, 50% for grades K through 2nd. Food safety, again, that was increased by 59%. Physical activity was 34%. Water intake 45%, and water intake by parent was 50% and 50% for grades K through 2. So those are some of the main things her curriculums hit, and that was some of the teaching outcomes from them. She also does public health. So she does some more of her public health. She does a lot at Kendall Elementary, Fall River, Bradshaw. She's had 493 students, participated in 3 different groups, and she distributed 42,000 pounds of grapes to McDowell County. You might have heard of that through local food pantries. Some of this is just her harvest of the month pictures that she sets up at the schools and gives out samples. She also does some curriculum, so she teaches some classes over. I'm not sure for the kids' curriculum, it might be 6 weeks too. But she collects data and surveys and things like that that we use as well.
Okay, now it's my turn. You want to take it? Sure. Thank you. Okay, so I was hired last June as a program assistant, so I will be reporting on a little bit of things I've done since last March, because even when I was in college and not working for WVU, I was still volunteering. And then I haven't been able to teach. I wasn't able to get certified until January, and then was in contact with Nadia Johnson, and then the floods happened, and I finally got into this position on March 11th, and it's been meetings ever since. So I went with Kayla Borboom, the previous agent, to take 9 youth. I was the vetted volunteer to Day at the Legislature, and they were able to talk to our senators and our delegates about some questions that they had and some ideas that they also had. We did 1 county camp last summer at Panther State Park. There were 33 youth total for McDowell County, 18 staff and volunteers, and it was all age. So older kids came in on Sunday, they left on Friday, and the little kids came, I think, Wednesday morning. So, and then we had a couple of our students in McDowell County also go to some state level camps. Some events that we participated in, we did the Roll and Read, which I think was up here this summer, the summer feeding program, Kid Fun Day, Bradshaw Reading Club, Mount View Middle and High School's open house, as well as Kimball, Welch, Yeager, and Fall River, as well as the trunk or treat up here. Okay, I actually got the amazing opportunity to go with 3 of our lovely McDowell County youth, and I think Jazzy's actually Mercer County now, but she was McDowell County for a while, to Washington, D.C. So they were actually asked by National 4-H to help develop a STEM activity and then present it to the National 4-H conference in Washington, D.C., and they needed somebody to take them. So I was able to do that. Just looking forward, I would like to get our Cloverbud Club started back up in the elementary schools. I think Yeager Elementary, they're very interested in that one over there. Another all-age 4-H camp we will be with Wyoming County this year. They've so graciously allowed us to go with them since Panther kind of got a little messed up during the flood. some Cloverbud day camps as well as all-age day camps throughout the summer, and we are also in the process of working with Mountaineer Food Bank to do some food distribution this summer, hopefully like we did last year. Okay, are there any questions? Yes.
I forgot your name, I apologize.
Brianna.
Brianna, I apologize. You'd mentioned reconnecting McDowell. How active are they, do you know?
They don't meet monthly, to my knowledge, but they meet, I think, like every 6 months. I met with them, and it was the Farmers Coalition from McDowell County, so we had a meeting together. But they showed us the high tunnel, because that's something they've been talking about getting going again. And we also went to War, and we're looking at some of their facilities there, because they're hoping to get some school programs going there, like gardening, and using their gymnasium there for like after-school programming.
Thank you.
My grandson came home once and he was telling me he wanted to drink water because water was more healthy for you. So I'm wondering if it was Dana or whoever
Yeah.
went to the school, because I asked him, I said, who was at school today? I don't think he remembered what her name was, but he wanted to drink, and he actually does drink more water.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next I wanted to acknowledge the request that we received from the Council of Southern Mountain concerning the Kimball Elementary School, and everybody has a copy of it, so I just wanted to acknowledge that we did receive that. It's a request for the school. And the next item on the agenda is the personnel agenda, and I have a conflict, so I'm going to recuse myself for the personnel agenda, and Ms. Robinette will be doing that.
Next up is the personnel agenda. Do you have a motion for approval? Second? Okay. Motion by Margaret, second by Ed. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? So we have 4 yeses and 1 abstain.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the volunteer agenda. If we would have a motion. Larkin
Second.
and Angie. Do we have any questions concerning the volunteer agenda? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Next item, H is finance. Allowed an authorization of payment of bills, budget revisions, invoices presented for payment are available in the finance office during normal business hours. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll second.
Ms. Margaret and Angie. Do you have any questions concerning those? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Next is the approval to authorize school fundraising events. Mountain View High School baseball 6 through 8 clothing merchandise fundraiser, and Kimball Elementary School basketball and cheer uniform sales fundraiser. Do we have a motion to approve those?
I make a motion that we take both of them together and approve them.
Did we say Margaret seconded first? Okay. Any questions concerning those? Hearing nothing, will all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next is the action items. Number 1 is the FY 2025 contract between the McDowell County Board of Health and McDowell County Board of Education.
I make a motion.
Do you have any questions concerning that?
Could we have a little more information on that, Madam Superintendent? What is this contract?
So this is the contract for the Department of Health to provide physicals for the bus drivers and provide the food handlers training. They go into the schools when they have to provide different reports in terms of the health department and different services. So they just bill us for those services once per semester.
Are they doing things for the children?
It's usually the employees. Mhm.
Okay. I just didn't know what that was, and I just wanted the information. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Number 2 is approval to purchase services provided by Deluxe Athletics to replace the stadium field surface at Riverview High School due to the flooding. It's $210,315. Motion by Larkin, second by Margaret. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Approval to purchase materials to replace the stadium field surface at Riverview High School due to flooding, field turf, $280,000. Have a motion?
I'll second.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Next, we have 4 through 12 and its student trip requests. If it's your pleasure, we can take all these at 4 through 12.
I'll make them. Go ahead.
Make a motion and approval.
Margaret. I'll second.
Okay, we'll take 4 through 12 and approve those all together. In favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Next item on the agenda is the superintendent updates. Dr. Barker.
So I emailed you the end of the year calendar because we know May is getting very hectic, so I wanted to give as much structure as I can. So just watch, and I'll try to email you the dates as we get closer. Watch those dates. Also let me know which graduation you're going to so that I can let the principals know to make accommodations for you. Just a reminder, the graduations are on Thursday, on May 22nd at 6 o'clock. So I will be at Mount View, Miss Payton will be at Riverview. So just let me know so that I can get that information to the principals. We have started working on the postings for the summer school. As you know, we'll have it for 2 weeks, and there'll be split weeks in July. I think last year it worked for us to get a break, for the students to get a break. In addition to having elementary focused sites, just because we have to provide interventions based on House Bill 3035 requirements, but we'll be running the CTC camp, and it will be for middle school through high school if we wanted to age students, because we really want to capitalize on helping them become more career aware and really get it in earlier than just 9th and 10th grade, just like we used to. We are working, Ms. Khan and I are working on to submit the COPS grant, and that's the grant that we are writing to really upgrade, to get the money to upgrade cameras and door access controls, and like visitor entrances, just to make sure that we have schools that are safe. So we are going to request the highest amount we can request, which is $500,000, so that we can really make sure our cameras are up to date and our buildings are as secure as they can be. Just a reminder, on the 16th of May, we're holding Special Olympics, so Dr. East will love to have volunteers if you would like to join us, so just contact her if you would like to participate. Just wanted to thank our teachers, our custodial staff, our cooks, our principals, about putting so much effort into our staycation activities, because I think we had lots of fun in school. Kids loved it, and it was still averaged around 350 students out a day, but I think it would have been a lot worse if we did not have those planned. Wanted to make sure that on June 2nd, we will be holding our meeting at Mount View Auditorium, because we'll be holding our teacher and service personnel recognition as well as student recognition. Move-up days for kindergarten, it will be May 19th, and for everybody else, we'll have a move-up day on the 29th. On that calendar, you also saw that we are getting the middle school students out to CTC several days in a row, because the seniors will be gone in the afternoon, so we'll just make sure our middle school students are getting through those shops and see exactly what they're about. As you know, Yeager Elementary is our school and school improvement, so they just had a diagnostic review from the State Department, and of course, based on those results and the data, we'll see if they can come off that status of the school on improvement. So on the 27th of May, we'll have the full debrief with the State Department to see how that diagnostic went. And the last thing is as you know, we have esports, and they've been holding competitions and championships. So they won a Rocket League championship for the state, West Virginia, I don't know, it's a SEL Esports League. So it's in the first year of their program. They're doing a really good job. So I wanted to commend Mr. Hughes for getting the job done, and the students to actually come up, because we have had issues with busing, because it just sometimes it gets stuck, but they have persevered and have been showing up. That's all I have for now.
And I forgot to make mention about Mr. Brown at our legislative update training that Dr. Barker and I went to. He wanted to make sure that you go over all of the legislative updates.
Oh, yeah.
Ed probably did that.
Constantly.
But he wants you to, kind of a lot review at least.
Yeah, we sat through the whole day of Mr. Sufer talking about different bills that were passed. There is a lot of stuff that I think they're still trying to figure out how it will be implemented. There's some stuff that concerns you as board members in terms of compensation and telling the teachers about their, the policy 2419 and stuff. So we'll be kind of looking forward to hearing more from Mr. Sufer as they kind of decipher what the legislature has put out. So when I have more information, I'll be keeping you appraised, but kind of look over that PowerPoint. I think it's really good, and it's very specific, just so that you know what's coming.
You had mentioned transportation. It hit something in my mind real quick. This may have been taken care of before I came on the board, I don't know, but we were stopped, Linda and I were stopped in Walmart the other day, of all places, by a lady who's concerned that her newly, what do you call it, where you take the kindergarten kids, you screen them, would be riding the same bus as seniors. Is that true?
On this side, we have had children riding with elementary children riding with high school and middle school on that side of the county for years, and we have never had any issues. So this year, where we are putting Coalfield on top of the mountain instead of doing the 2 runs, we're going to have them being on a bus with with middle school and high school students. And what Mr. Briggle is doing already, because we know how it runs on the Riverview side. So we'll make sure the bus drivers know that all the elementary children will be up front, all the middle school and high school children will be in the back with the bus. So we'll have buses drop students off at elementary school first, so they can disembark, and then take them to the high school. And then in the evening, we'll have the high school embark first in the back, and then the middle elementary school children would be riding on the front.
And I have assigned seating, I assume.
Yeah, we'll,
Pre-K by law has to sit in the first seat.
I'm sorry.
Pre-K by law has to sit in the front seats.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
we let their older siblings sometimes sit with them if there's a separation anxiety, but they have to sit in the front.
so it will be, we are going to make a plan, because we already have this working well on the other side of the county, but we'll make sure that we work with the bus drivers. Mr. Griggle already knows, he's been making the schedules and working with the bus drivers, because we want them to, all children to feel safe, and I don't think we really had issues on Riverview catchment area. Usually those older children actually take care of the younger ones, but we really have not had incidences of
That's
bullying
good to
or, they always try to protect those younger students.
Okay, well, I told the lady I would address it tonight,
Yeah.
but
Because
I don't
it's
even
all
know
on the
who- I don't
same
even know who
campus.
she is in it, but anyway, still,
Yeah.
for my benefit, if nothing else, I just want to throw that
Yeah,
out.
and we will keep on educating the parents as well. I know it's a change.
I could see 2 or 3 buses going on Bradshaw Mountain to pick up kids and down at Coon Branch and circle back around and Mohawk and wherever. That's not gonna happen, so they're gonna have to ride together. All right, the announcement of future meetings, May the 19th, 2025, the regular meeting here at the central office. And at this time, it is 5:57. And if we would have a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.